We've been talking all week about how the Pittsburgh Steelers defense has to stop the Bengals offense, but we got to talk about this has to be the week where the Steelers offense wakes up, especially against a historic defense. We'll talk about how they do that and how they do that even when DK Metcalf is being double teamed and how that can trigger a better season run to the rest of the year. That here on today's Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, joined today by Jenna Harner. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show in your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first team every day your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And a reminder that the Locked On Steelers podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is now the #1 sports podcast network out there. So be sure to tune in for all of that. Today's episode is also brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. More on them later. As I said before, we're joined by Jenna Harner from Channel 11 WXI. We love having Jenna. Jenna, it's been a minute. We haven't had you on like a month. Glad to see you back, though.
It's been a little while. California, the road trip to LA threw a little bit of a wrench in things. Last Thursday night, I was watching that abomination of a football game from 30 plus 37,000, however high you fly feet up there. I was zoned out. There was a lady behind me watching TikToks on her phone at full blast. I'm just like, what this is. We need laws in society here. We need
laws in society. We used to be a country. But let's talk about the Steelers offense real quick, because one thing, the Steelers offense was the biggest problem in this last game. I think everyone can agree. The defense, kind of kept them in the game as long as they could, but the offense really never showed up. And one thing that I saw on tape and that several players and coaches acknowledged had to be better was when the Chargers double-teamed DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers nor the rest of the Steelers offense had a proper response. And Jenna, that's just not something that you can afford to have in your offense, especially with the way it's designed, because you said you weren't going to go out and get a number 2 wide receiver. You weren't going to go do anything crazy. You were going to you were going to try to, hey, we're going to win with DK Metcalf, and then we'll make Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth and Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. They'll all kind of piecemeal it off. But when it doesn't happen, it stalls everything else. And I think we saw that in real time take over the offense.
Yeah, and again, this is so the Steelers coaching staff, front office, everybody we've had conversations with since arguably they traded George Pickens away. We've been asking the questions of, okay, it's DK. Who's next? Who else? Yeah. Who is second in command? Who is all of this? And they've told us many times, obviously, Calvin Austin is wide receiver 2. They want to get Roman Wilson more involved, but they have the plethora of tight ends and all of the abilities to use those guys. I mean, how many times has Mike Tomlin talked about Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington and Jonnu Smith as just the REC receiver in terms of all the, every time they make a catch, that's what it goes down as, is the reception. So they've talked about that consistently. This was really the first game to me where it's like, oh, okay, the offense, Aaron Rodgers did not show show their potential and also live up to what they could do. And we saw them sputter. We saw them falter. That is going to be a big problem if it continues this way moving forward. Now, could last week have just been a hiccup? I put a lot on Aaron Rodgers. I think that was by and far his worst game as a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah.
However, the questions that we've been asking throughout from the offseason to now, they need to be answered. And I think they will this week. It really helps when you play a terrible defense. We'll get to that. But right. I just think we saw a little bit of like, what has given so many people such trepidation about this Steelers offense when you looked at it on paper from the start of the year?
And listen, they designed this offense knowing this could be a problem, but they had confidence that they had the answers in place to do it. They have to execute on these options. And as I went over with Alan Saunders on our Tuesday grades, there were guys open. Pat Freiermuth was open several times. Kenneth Gainwell was open several times. They could have run the ball more with Jaylen Warren, who, when he runs the ball, it's pretty good. There are answers in the offense that, from all those guys to Darnell Washington and elsewhere. And just if you hit a wide open Jonnu Smith when he's on a corner route, the games change. And I got a chance to ask around the Steelers locker room about addressing that, especially when they're doubling DK Metcalf, because to me, that's the big thing at this offense. When they take away the guy that you paid all that money to go get, you have to have other answers. I'm going to play a medley of our scrum questions, asking that to Aaron Rodgers, Pat Freiermuth, and then DK Metcalf. Check out what they all said this week when we talked to them in the Steelers locker.
What can you say about the concerted effort a lot of teams are throwing in to double up on DK? Like, there were plays where safety from the opposite side of the field is coming down on him fast and hard, and how you guys have to counter that.
Yeah, other guys got to get open and make plays because DK is a super talented guy, but we haven't been able to get him the targets that we want to because he's getting doubled every third down, basically.
Aaron, you talk about the attention DK gets. We're at 9 games in now. You've had other guys step up intermittently, but the defense have not stopped giving DK that attention. Is this just maybe how it's going to be all season? Them other teams not expecting?
Yeah, I would expect them to. DK is an A receiver. He's a dominant player, and we need to find ways, even when he's getting doubled, to give him more targets. But when they double him the way they double him the other night, there's not as many opportunities as you might think.
A lot of teams are devoting a lot of attention to doubling DK, especially on third down. I mean, they were sending safeties from the opposite side of the field. What do you guys have to do as just a pass attack unit to better counter that when teams are doing that?
We have to understand, when they're doing it and at what situations, and we just need to win and get open for Aaron.
Was there a common thread on third down why things just took so long to click?
Just lack of detail and just being able to, execute what we're being asked to execute. And we'll get it fixed. And, we've been relatively good on third down in the past.
Any chance you're the guy they double based on recent history?
You said what?
Any chance you're the guy they double this time based on recent history?
Hopefully not. But, we'll see what happens, and excited for the opportunity on Sunday.
DK, what can you guys do to work against the level that teams are trying to double you? I mean, they're not just bringing the safety over top; they're bringing safeties from the other side of the formation to come against you when you're doing your crossing routes. How do you guys counter that better?
I think we just got to execute as a whole better. Nobody's stopping us on offense but ourselves. Like I've been saying, every week is one block here or there, or somebody's not getting the full play call. So just got to do a better job of being in tune with the play call and everybody being on the same page.
Did you see the Chargers doing more of that double covering you than before, or is that about the same amount you've seen all year?
I really don't pay attention to double coverage. I run my route, and I may look up and see one person or two people there. It doesn't, affect how I view the game. I just, run my route and, block my assigned guy every play.
So I think, Jenna, right there, you see a lot of it talking about they have to be better in those moments. And Aaron Rodgers talking about, guys got to get open, but you also got to hit the guys that are open. And I think it's a collective thing. And it's something that DK Metcalf has talked about. He mentioned, being one thing away. That's kind of what's gotten in the way of this offense, I think, truly clicking. But there is the potential for it. I know there's a lot of people that are saying, well, they don't have a wide receiver too, so it's not going to be able to happen. But I'm telling you, when you watch the tape, there's plenty of guys open. You just have to find a way to get them the ball and to stay on rhythm with what you're doing. Something I brought up going into that game, the two things the Steelers did well on offense was winning in third and short, 3rd and 3 or shorter. They have the number 1 conversion rate of that in the NFL, and they're a top 8 red zone team. The problem is they only got 1 3rd and short all night long, and they only got 1 red zone opportunity all night long. So when you only get 2 of the things, or one time of each thing that is your 2 best things that you're best you have the best metrics in, you're naturally going to put yourself in a disadvantage.
Yeah, and you mentioned the guys open when you mentioned Kenneth Gainwell. Our viewers saw me just point because watching that game from the press box, you can just see it. You're like, he's right there, he's open, and you have that almost like, you just sit there. It's that reaction of like, okay, wait, there's the open guy. You can see it. You can understand how the offense is operating from that way. But it to me, I need to see more. I think I go back to like what it was for me from Rodgers, and some of those throws were just very high. Some of the ones that could have sustained drives, like what felt like very pivotal key moments in that game. I know we've talked about this ad nauseum too. I understand the situation in the Chargers game, but Jaylen Warren was moving the ball really, really well, and it felt just kind of too little too late almost when he was really getting going, and it was situational, of course, but the drive, the one where where Rodgers overthrew Jonnu when they were close to the red zone. That to me, I was like, this is what before up to that point in the game, I had a tweet typed out. I was like, this is exactly the drive I want to see from the Steelers. It was a perfect mix of run and pass. And it felt like they were operating so well and keeping, they were staying on their toes. The Chargers kind of just didn't seem to have an answer for anything. That to me, up until the point when it stalled, I was like, this is what is the formula for how this team can find success. And I think they need to continue with the run game and to continue just to find ways to let Jaylen Warren do what he does, because when he gets going, we all know the workhorse, the potential, the amount of yards he's going to get, especially when he hits that first contact too. He is so slippery. He's so elusive for guys to take down across the lead. He's a very hard running back to tackle. Let him go out there and be able to do that. Let them go out there and say, hey, I'm going to beat you, and make the opposing defenses try to bring him down however many yards after he makes contact.
No, exactly. And I look at this as a game to do that. I talked about this a bit with Jake Lisco of Locked On Bengals on yesterday's Crossover Thursday episode, but literally the Bengals rank last in points allowed, last in yards allowed, last in rushing yards allowed, last in yards per play allowed, last in third and long, the defending third and long, last in EPA per play, last in expected points, and literally last in time of possession, which the Steelers are the only team, they're the only team worse than the Steelers at possessing the football. But like they are so terrible, and about several of their metrics are in the 30s. Like they're not last, but they're either next to last or the next to last. Like so, there's so many. This has to be the week the Steelers offense wakes up, figures out what to do when DK is doubled, figures out how to get the run game going, figures out how to, and then you can feed off of this and then carry that with you into other games like the Bears, like the Ravens, like the Bills, and then if you find your groove here, but it has to start this week.
And to me too, I think it's been a very small sample size, but we've seen more consistency from the defense. And I know that's been like the buzzword I feel like everyone in the locker room has been talking about over the last handful of weeks here, but I feel like they've been trending in the right direction to me from the performance I've seen from them. Again, there's things you can take out of the Chargers game. I think they played very well until they're on the field for 38 minutes of a 60-minute football game, and the attrition does set in. But to me, what a perfect situation for the Steelers offense to go be at home, have to face the worst, historically one of the worst defenses ever in the history of the National Football League. And this kind of feels like that perfect get right game for the offense to just get their feet back under them. I know we'll talk about our predictions and stuff in a little bit, but to me, this is just, hey, like you said, this is the week to reset everything, to attack over the middle, to get your run game going, to get Pat Freiermuth involved, because we know how much of a weapon he is against the Bengals, and just find ways to make more plays on offense, because you do that. And again, it's this nature of the league. You find, you swing the pendulum back to, hey, everything's all right. It was one tough loss and we're back on the winning side of things.
Absolutely. Could have said it better myself. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's time to get to our week 11 picks here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Jenna Harner, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I remind you, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL or the NBA or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried PrizePicks yet, it's the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere. PrizePicks operates including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points, three-pointers, and assists all in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, easy, and honestly, my favorite way to follow along with football. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter here with Jenna Harner of Channel 11 WPXI. And we have to get to the pick segment where I update the standings. And Jenna is in third place right now in the league.
I'm here. I'm finally on the show to be able to brag. Third place.
Take your walk here around the bases, Jenna.
Hey, there's still a lot of football left to be played. We just have to keep remaining consistent, keep feeling confident in our picks, and it'll pay off at the end of the season.
Indeed. Shout out to the person who's in first place in our ESPN Locked On Steelers Pick'em League. We're 336 of you are competing with us. That's awesome. But shout out to the real Lisa Simpson at 105-43. That's a pretty doggone good record right now. Jenna Harner right there at 103-45. I am lowly right now at 94-54. I got to pick it up. We're going to do it this week, baby. We're going to start the climb this week. So let's get to some week 11 picks here. As always, all our odds, ends, and lines come from FanDuel.com, our sponsors and the best sports book in America. Jenna, let's start off with some morning games. I believe this is the Madrid game. But the Commanders are at the Dolphins. The Dolphins are 2.5-point favorites on a neutral field. No Jaylen Daniels. It's rough for them. Both these teams have, to say the least, been underwhelming this year in how they've performed. But I'm going with the Dolphins here. I think that they at least have they're healthier. They'll be able to handle things. The Commanders have been trending downwards in a lot of ways, and I think Miami could at least pull this off.
Yeah, somebody said to me the other day, they were like, are we punishing Spain here? Welcome to football. You get the Commanders and the Dolphins. Yeah, health is a big factor for me in this one too. If Jayden Daniels was playing, if the Commanders had a healthy offense, I might feel differently. They have I don't know what it is this season, what Etsy witch someone put a curse on. To me, they've just been so injury plagued. The Dolphins have some momentum after that game against the Bills. So yeah, give me Miami here. But if above all else, this will just be one of those, I'm going to watch it, but I don't know. I hope it's entertaining games.
Moving right along, Bears at Vikings into the 1 p.m. hour. It's an NFC North showdown. The Vikings are 2.5-point home favorites in what really is kind of a must-win game, I think, for the Vikings. They're in the 10th seed in the NFC right now at 4-5. The Bears at 6-3 are the 6th seed. That's the thing, that the Bears are 2 games ahead of them, and they're still just a wild card team right now. Granted, they're tied with the Lions, and the Lions have the tiebreaker, but there's 3 teams in the NFC North that would make the playoffs right now if the playoffs started today, and the Lions, the Bears, and the Packers. Give me the Bears. I actually think that they have some things here that could work out for them. I think J.J. McCarthy is kind of struggling, and I think the Bears can be an opportunistic defense to take advantage of that. So I think they pull off the upset in Madrid. What do you say, Jenna?
I'm going back and forth with this one. This one's so interesting to me because I like the home field advantage for the Vikings, but I don't know. These teams feel like the whole league this year is just so you don't know who anybody actually is. But I feel like we also say that every year because it's the National Football League and there's parity. I like the Vikings just because I think after last week, just seeing Justin Jefferson's comments, I think he's going to have a massive week. He was not a happy camper after last week. So I like the Vikings here, but this, as the Vegas spread shows, really feels like a coin flip to me.
Home game for the Vikings, not in Madrid. Sorry, Dolphins are in Madrid.
Dolphins.
The Dolphins, the Vikings were in Europe way too long. I was just thinking, like, wait a minute, they're not back here. They were in Ireland and London. Well, how would they get? They're just doing all the European stadiums. That's just what they're doing. Let's move along to a game that's going to be close to your heart, Jenna Harner. That's the Green Bay Packers at the New York Football Giants. The Packers are 7-point favorites in this one. They looked pretty rough against the Eagles. Jenna, as it stands right now, the Giants are last place in the NFC at 2-8. They would, at this point in time, I believe, have the number 2 pick in the NFL. Actually, technically, the Saints, I guess, for some reason, get that according to some places. But either way, they're in competition for a top 3 pick right now. Is there any way they spoil that by somehow beating the Packers this week?
No, but I'm going to tell you what, it's going to be fun because Jameis Winston starting at quarterback, which
oh my gosh,
shows the fan that I am, because someone said that to me the other day and it took me a minute because I still thought he was on the Browns, because again, that's just what I picture. And no, because at the start of the season too, I was like, wow, the Giants have like an all vibes team quarterback room. No, I don't care that the Packers are playing on a short week. I don't care that they looked bad against the Eagles. On paper, they're a much better football team. They should win this game, if by a lot. If they don't, it won't be great for Green Bay. But I'm going.
Yeah, it is good. Brian Dable just got fired. I mean, Matt LaFleur, I don't think will get fired, but there'll certainly be there'll be some loud stuff that happens there. But I'm also picking the Packers in that situation. NFC South showdown: Panthers at Falcons. Falcons at 3.5-point favorites. I've gone back and forth about this game as well, Jenna. The Falcons sit at 3-6. I thought they'd be much better than they are. The Panthers sit at 5-5. I thought they'd be much worse than they are. I've been going back and forth about this game, but I settled on the Falcons because they're at home. But I could easily be persuaded to take the Panthers here.
I cannot believe the Panthers are 5-5.
I didn't believe that either when I saw
that. To me, I'm just like, I honest to God, I just looked and I'm like, wait, how am I missing this? The Falcons, their wins though, to me, have been impressive, really, really solid wins. I'm going Atlanta because their defense is.
The defense.
I like that defense. The way that they blitz is insane. I'm going with the Falcons, but I feel like, and you'll see as we continue with our picks, everything feels like a coin flip this week to me, except very few games.
Yeah, to your point, they beat the Vikings, the Bills, and the Commanders when they had Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
so they've had some impressive moments. They've just laid a lot of eggs on top of that. Let's move right along. Chargers at Jaguars, 2 teams vying for wild card spots right now in the AFC Pittsburgh picture. If the playoffs were today, the Chargers would be the 5 seed, the Jaguars would be the 7. Give me the Chargers. I think Justin Herbert's better than Trevor Lawrence. I also think that the Chargers have more answers on defense than the Jaguars. So give me the Chargers. They're favored by 3 points on FanDuel.
Yeah, I like LA a lot here too, especially with what we saw from them a week ago. I mean, you got to find ways to win games. I think they did that, even though it was tough sledding for them in the beginning. I think Justin Herbert also really solid quarterback, especially given the lack of an offensive line in front of him. So yeah, give me the Chargers here. It might be a closer game than people think, but I think that LA wins this one convincingly.
Bills, 5.5-point home favorites over the Buccaneers. That's a lot of points for this game. I thought that this would be a lot closer. The Bills have been so up and down this year. That's why they're a 6 seed in the playoff race right now. I went back and forth about this, but I sided with the Bills. I feel like they have to bounce back and win this to stay in the hunt to still potentially win their division. We are recording this in the middle of Thursday Night Football. I'm assuming that the Patriots do not find a way to lose at home on Thursday Night Football to Justin Fields and the Jets, but you never know. But give me Buffalo. I think they're a better team right now because of Josh Allen. But I do think the Buccaneers, when they are healthy, are a very dangerous team.
Yeah, I think so too. I've also loved the banter between Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield all week with the gloves comments. They're having fun, and we are too. I like Buffalo. I think they're a lot healthier coming into this matchup than they have been the last handful of games. And I think that loss in Miami was a massive wake-up call for that team. I think they win, but I feel like the Bucs cover. 5.5 feels like a big spread for me here.
Yeah, it's a big spread. I'm taking the Bills to win. Bucks to cover. This goes down to the wire in that situation. Another 5.5 point spread. This time it's the Texans at the Titans. The Texans favored 5.5 points on the road here. The Titans are just abysmal. They've already fired their head coach. The Texans, another team that is, needs to kind of step it up. They're on the 9 seed right now in the AFC, just one game away from the Jaguars as far as fighting their way to get into the AFC picture here, the playoff race. But the Texans are 5.5 point favorites. They'll find a way to win. That defense is nasty, particularly Derek Stingley Jr. is nasty.
Yeah, the defense in Houston's defense is kind of what this game comes down to for me. Both of these teams are, the Titans aren't great. The Texans haven't also been what we've wanted them to be offensively. I think, I've wanted to see more from CJ Stroud this season. So I like the Texans here just because the Titans are not great, Bob, at football right now.
Not great, Bob. Moving right along here, a big matchup here. One of the games of the week. We had a few really big games, Buccaneers, Bills, but this one, Seahawks at Rams, NFC West showdown. The Rams are 3-point home favorites, which, if you know, the bettors often just give 3 points to the home team. So this is kind of a split for them as far as just pure talent-wise. I've been going back and forth, but I'm taking the Seahawks. I like the way they play defense. I like the way they found rhythm on offense. I think the Rams are a really good team. I think these two teams will end up splitting at the end of the year, but I think the Seahawks find a way to win in LA. The Rams will get them back later this year.
Yeah, I go back and forth so much. This feels like such a coin flip to me. I took the Rams because I like the home field advantage for them. I think that there's a reason they're getting 3 points at home. I also think Matthew Stafford is playing unbelievable football, and I wish I've seen more of it this season. What was the stat? He's the first quarterback ever to have 3 straight games where he threw 4 or more touchdowns.
I think that was the stat, yes.
And granted, competition-wise, who they've been playing, sure, he's been playing lights-out football, and he's been doing it with it. Like, Puka Nacua has been in, Puka Nacua has been injured, he's been out, he's not been there for a lot of the majority of this success lately, if I have that right.
Yes.
I like both. This is going to be such a fun game, and I can't wait to catch the end of it. I'm going with the Rams, but you can make a convincing case for Seattle, and I totally understand that too.
More NFC West football. Niners at Cardinals. Niners are 3-point favorites. Brock Purdy is scheduled to be back in this game. Kyler Murray basically in limbo right now in Arizona. Give me the Niners. I just think they have more continuity, even though the Cardinals are at home. The Niners are 3-point favorites. I'll take them winning there.
Yeah, I don't know how the Niners have won as many games as they've had, considering how injury depleted they've been too. But give me San Fran here. I like them in this matchup over a reeling Arizona team with a lot of questions.
More divisional football work here. The Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites on the road at the Denver Broncos, who right now sit at 8-2 and the 2 seed in the AFC playoff picture. If the playoffs were to start today, the Chiefs would miss. They need to win this game. Give me the Chiefs. They find a way to win. I think the Broncos have been good for winning the games that they have, and they've beaten the Eagles in that stretch. They've beaten the Texans in that stretch. But I think that this is the time that the Chiefs wake the heck up. They bring them down to reality, and then because right now the Broncos, they are on a 7-game win streak, which is just insane after their 1-2 start. But I think the Chiefs bring them back down to reality.
I completely agree with you. I think Kansas City is one. We've said at the start of the season they were one of the best teams, and they faltered in the beginning, but they've found ways to get back to the Chiefs football that we all know and either love or despise. I like Kansas City too. I like Kansas City in this game. I like what the Broncos have done. I think their defense is really good, but to me, their style of winning where you get to the fourth quarter and have this big, massive comeback, I think you can do that against lesser competition. I don't think you can do that against a team like the Chiefs.
Ravens at Browns, 7.5-point favorites are Baltimore heading into Cleveland. I feel like this is another ramp-up game for the Ravens to kind of get back into their groove after what's been just a really rough start for them to the season. They started 1-5. They've now won 3 straight. I think they'll make it 4 straight. Cleveland is a tough place to play, but Dylan Gabriel's quarterbacking, so give me Baltimore.
Yeah, give me the Ravens. I know that they've had their defensive problems. I know Lamar Jackson didn't practice Wednesday, and people were concerned. I like the Ravens in this one. They're going to win this game. I feel very confident in saying that.
The Lions at the Eagles. This is my game of the week on Sunday Night Football. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites over the Lions, and I get it, but give me Detroit. I really like the way they're playing. Dan Campbell recently took over play calling. You saw the run game just ignite. If you can run the ball on the Eagles, it will send a message of fear to everyone out there that if you broke the Eagles front, you can break anybody's front. And so give me the Lions. I think that they it's a close one, but the run game really kicks in for them. It really helps them, and they find a way to beat the Eagles.
Yeah, what a Sunday night game we also get to have here. Eagles come in on a short week. I like what the Lions are doing. I think they've figured out answers to problems that have popped up in the early portions of the season. I still think they're one of the best teams in the National Football League, especially the NFC, but I really like Detroit in this game. I think it's close. I just think they find a way to win, and there's some fun, crazy, wacky play call from Dan Campbell that brings a lot of joy to football lovers, young and old.
Monday Night Football, Cowboys at Raiders. The Cowboys have just missed some serious layups here that could have had them in playoff contention. I don't think they missed this one, though. They'll find a way to win. Give me the Cowboys. They are 3.5-point favorites on FanDuel.
Yeah, the Cowboys either, I feel like, win a game and score 40 points or lose a game and give up 40 points or do both.
Or both.
And they've also flip-flopped. They haven't had, speaking of consistency, I feel like for the Cowboys, it's been win-loss.
Yep.
I think they win because it's the Raiders, but this might be ugly like last Thursday's game between the Raiders and the Broncos.
Man, that would be pretty wild. It's time to get to Steelers Bengals. We'll do that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Jenna Harner, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, we want to remind you this show is also brought to you by GameTime. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. But when I use GameTime, the app gives you the advantage back to the fans because GameTime is fast, easy, and backed by the GameTime guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up GameTime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games for as low as $100. I love zone deals too. Pick the section, GameTime picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Down on the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL, and you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download GameTime today. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Jenna Harner, Channel 11 WPXI. Let's get into this Steelers game. FanDuel right now has the Steelers at 5.5-point favorites on the game. The Steelers money line is set at -250. The Bengals set at +205. Over under set at 49.5 points. So some points being scored here expected in Vegas and FanDuel. Jenna, we talked about the offense needing to get going. I'd be remiss if we didn't at least address the defense in this show. What is the most important thing the defense has to do in this game to be able to win?
For me, it's stop the run. And I know it's basic. I know it's what this defense has been saying consistently, but talking to so many members of this defense in the locker room on Thursday, that was the key. That was, hey, we know what we didn't do well against the Bengals last time. This is what needs to happen so that everything else can fall into place, so that they can make Joe Flacco one-dimensional and the pass rush can get home. They need to limit Chase Brown, especially when we talked with Cam Hayward on Thursday. He mentioned that, he was asked what he's seen from Flacco since the Steelers played the Bengals, and they are getting Chase Brown worked into this offense a lot more. This run game for the Bengals has gotten going. So for me, it all starts there. If they can stop the run, if they can not let make it a 2-yard gain, not turn into a 20-yard gain, and have him rip off some of those long runs that we saw plague the Steelers a lot in the first time these two teams met a month ago, that's going to be crucial to what the Steelers want to do defensively and how they have success against Joe Flacco, who can get the football out of his hands at one of the highest or quickest rates in the league.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is they got to be able to create turnovers. They got to be able to do things. Stopping the run is important, and I agree with you. That's the primary thing. I think defensively, the other thing is take away that first read on offense. Force Joe Flacco to hold the ball. He only got sacked a couple times the last time that they that they played. So they need to sack him like they sacked Justin Herbert. This is a worse offensive line. This should be a run game that you stuff. This should be a passing game that you take away. And listen, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, they're going to make plays. They're going to be given chances to make plays, and they're going to make plays. But you can't allow it to knock you off your assignments. You have to prey on Joe Flacco. You have to force him to hold the ball and then get to him when he is holding the ball, knock the ball out, get some sacks, get some turnovers, force some bad passes. Do those things. I think the Steelers stand a good chance to win this game. I also think their new plan has made it more accessible for them to achieve those goals, for lack of a better word, because I think that there is a chance that the Steelers are able to kind of lock in and start to become more the defense we've talked about them being, even against an offense that has averaged 37 plus points per game since they've added Joe Flacco. But Jenna, I look at the run defense. I look at the quick passing game and taking that away, and the pressure getting home. They do those three things, and the offense just is decent. I think the Steelers should be in a really good place for this game.
Yeah, and you kind of look back to the last time these two teams met, and short week, Thursday, throw that out the window. You've had the preparation now. The bodies have recovered well from where, having those couple extra days where you don't have to just immediately get back out on the field. It feels like there's a reason Vegas has this game as the Steelers being 5.5-point favorites in this. I think this should be a game the Steelers absolutely win. And you're right. It comes down to all the things you mentioned defensively, but as long as the offense can operate, and if you force even one turnover, if you win the turnover battle in this game, because they lost it 2-0 to the Bengals last time. And usually if you're on the losing side of the turnover battle, you're going to lose the game. So it doesn't have to be 6 turnovers like we saw against the Colts. I don't think that's going to happen with how, again, the way the Bengals offense operates and how quickly Joe Flacco's been getting that football out to his targets. If you force a couple turnovers, all of a sudden this game changes and you make those key plays and key moments. I think we've seen that too over the stretch where they haven't gotten the turnovers, and even in the Chargers game, there have been opportunities. The need to capitalize on those opportunities can play a big role in the outcome and how this game is determined.
All right, it's time to put our money where our mouth is. Let's start with this. Jenna, give me your X factor of the game, how you see it playing out, and your final score prediction.
My X factor in this game is going to be whichever receiver, REC, not named DK Metcalf, steps up. I know, obviously, we really honed in on that in the first segment, but to me, it's going to be, okay, you know what they're going to look to do defensively and how they game plan against Aaron Rodgers. So how big of a day does Pat Freiermuth have? How much involved is Jonnu Smith? And how is Aaron Rodgers getting the ball to his targets, and just kind of how much does he settle back into the offense we've seen him conduct and lead through the first 9 weeks of the season, because we're in week 11. Math is hard there. So that's going to be my big X factor. I see this being a back and forth game, but I think the Steelers at some point are going to take like a 10-point lead and just never let it go. Since he might make it close, it does feel like it's going to kind of be, they're T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are, like you said, going to get theirs for sure. I think the Steelers win this game 30-24. I've also been feeling like the 5.5-point spread is too big, but then when I go to make my score prediction, I'm like, every time I have the Steelers winning by more than 5.5. So I think they win 30-24, but it's one of those scores that looks closer than the game really was type games.
Okay, I hear that. I think that the X factor in this game, I agree with you. Receiving is important and making that play party. Aaron Rodgers being back on point is vital. But I think, to your point about one of the biggest parts of this game, it's the run defense. And one person they targeted a lot when they were running with Chase Brown and they were making things happen was Keanu Benton. And Keanu Benton, just by my evaluation, the last 2 weeks has maybe had back-to-back the best football I've ever seen him play. If he is a difference maker in this game, not only will he stuff the run, but also be a factor in internal pressure on Joe Flacco, and that could be destabilizing to everything that the Bengals try to do in this game. Give me the Steelers. I think that they go back and forth early, but eventually the Steelers start to make some really big plays on offense. The defense, gets to get after the quarterback. They'll be more consistent, and I think they win this one. It won't be close, and it won't look like it could have been close. I think 42-20 Steelers win. Give them a defensive touchdown this week. I think they got one in their bag as the Bengals trying to get overly aggressive, and the new plan takes out what they want to do.
Who's scoring the defensive touchdown? Are we going that far?
Now we're putting pressure on me. Give me James Pierre. He's been sniffing for it, man.
Yeah.
Pick 6, James Pierre to the hizzy. He's taking it back.
All right.
There you go. You heard it first, the Locked On Steelers.
I love it.
There are our picks here on the Locked On Steelers podcast from Chris Carter and Jenna Harner. Thanks so much for tuning in. Jenna, thanks so much for joining us. Let people know they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here and with our listeners and viewers on Fridays. You can find me on Twitter at Jenna Harner11, Instagram Jenna_Harner, locally WPXI TV here in Pittsburgh. We also have the app if you're out of the Pittsburgh television market. Chris, Skylights is coming to, we're getting to the championships here. So it's a big week for Skylights. So tune in tonight on Channel 11. And tune in for Black and Gold Zone after the Steelers game Sunday night as well. So got all the stuff coming for you.
Absolutely. We'll have all the championship games coming at you on Skylights the next couple of weeks. Thanks, Jenna, for joining me here, and I'll see you there tonight on WPXI. But as always, thank you all for joining us here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, wherever you get social media. My handle is always at Carter Critiques. Read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. Find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, breaking down the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll be back here Sunday night after the Steelers game against the Bengals. Keep it here, the Locked On Steelers podcast.